everybody. Welcome to another episode of A Wider Lens, where we explore current events from multiple perspectives to see if we can synthesize them in such a way that reduces tribalism and furthers understanding. So let's get into it. As usual, we're using the spiral dynamics model here to understand what's happening in the political arena. So for anybody who's not familiar with spiral dynamics, you can check the link below and you can see more detailed videos about it. But just to explain it briefly, spiral dynamics is an evolutionary developmental model of reality. It shows how human beings, or at least it speculates how human beings, move through different stages of development if the conditions are right for them to do so. And so in my opinion, and so many other people's opinion in the world, this is the difference we see between where people are coming from in these different stages is what's happening in the culture wars, in politics, and in so many other areas. So today's story is about our friend Donald Trump again. So what he did after leaving Walter Reed Hospital a couple of days ago was he immediately went and did a photo op on the steps of the White House where he's seen taking off his mask. And so people are interpreting this quite differently from the different stages of development and what they prioritize. So let's take a look at that. And so on one side of this for today, we got Donald Trump, and he's coming from one stage of development at one particular world viewpoint. And then on the other, we have CNN. And so let's see how they clash and then see how we can maybe synthesize them a little bit. So we're going to be looking at two different stages of development in the spiral model today. That's the red tribal lens and also the orange modern value system. So we're going to have a look at these. And let's first just go through both of them so that we have a bit of an understanding before we get into the story and show some videos. And so Donald Trump's center of gravity is so often in this red stage of development. That's where you could say his center of gravity is. Even though he has many of the other stages online, that's where he feels most comfortable. So in this red stage of development, it's very much about projecting a sense of strength. And the sense of having our gut instinct online is very important. In fact, usually it's more important than our mental faculties. So Donald Trump, he really values his gut instinct, and he really gets his sense of identity through being a warrior, through the fight. He loves a fight, any kind of fight, and that's very indicative of this stage of development. I remember that TV show The Vikings, and if you watch that, you'll see the extent to which men, women, everybody, they're always fighting with one another as a way of maintaining identity. And Donald Trump is so in this perspective. And then on the other side of this, you have CNN. And they're coming at this from a very different perspective. Their value system and what they prioritize is very different. And so they're really prioritizing rationalism, strategy, using the mind first, and scientific evidence as a way of experiencing the world and a lens they're looking through of what's important and right. So let's take a look now at this video of Donald Trump. I think it was taken a few hours before he left Walter Reed Hospital, and he put it on Twitter for his followers. So let's just watch through that red lens, that red stage of development. What is Donald Trump saying here, and see if we can decode some of his language.
I just left Walter Reed Medical Center, and it's really something very special. The doctors, the nurses, the first responders, and I learned so much about coronavirus. And one thing that's for certain, don't let it dominate you.
So he's using that red language immediately there. Don't let it dominate you. So for him, he lives in a world where everything either dominates or else he dominates it. That's the world. Even the virus here, even a cold or a flu or anything, he's experiencing it through that lens of domination. Again, back to that same way, everything is viewed in terms of strength and the perception of it.
Don't be afraid of it. You're going to beat it. We have the best medical equipment. We have the best medicines, all developed recently. And you're going to beat it. I didn't feel so good. And 2 days ago, I could have left 2 days ago. 2 days ago, I felt great, like better than I have in a long time. I said just recently.
So again, that projection of strength is so important to him. You're going to beat it, and I feel great. I feel better than I've ever felt. It's very, very important to him.
Recently, better than 20 years ago. Don't let it dominate. Don't let it take over your lives. Don't let that happen. We have the greatest country in the world. We're going back. We're going back to work. We're going to be out front. As your leader, I had to do that. I knew there's danger.
We're going to be out front again, that very red language. As your leader, very strong projection of those values again.
Danger to it, but I had to do it. I stood out front. I led. Nobody that's a leader would not do what I did. And
see how he's making fun even there with his voice. He's like, nobody who's a leader. So nobody, he's saying, from that perception of that red phase of development, that's what's most important, to lead, to show strength, to not sit around and think, to lead and show strength. That's the value system I think he's coming from here.
I know there's a risk, there's a danger, but that's okay. And now I'm better, and maybe I'm immune, I don't know. But don't let it dominate your lives. Get out there, be careful. We have the best medicines in the world, and it all happened very shortly, and they're all getting approved, and the vaccines are coming momentarily. Thank you very much. And Walter Reed, what a group of people. Thank you very much.
So you can hear in that there, Donald Trump is alluding to the fact that we have great medicines and get out there, be careful. He is including that, but you can see he's very much coming from that stage of that red stage of development. That's what his priority is there. Don't let it dominate you. He's including that thing, but it's very peripheral. So now let's take a look at it from the other side. We're looking at CNN here. They have a video running of Donald Trump, I believe, when he's just after getting back to the White House, and just a few remarks on that.
Sanjay, keep going. This is where he has the mask on, right, as he goes passes the press, doesn't take questions, and is going to head up those stairs.
Right. So he heads up the stairs, and then when he gets to the top of the stairs is when he takes his mask off. And, you know, if he's going to go inside the residence, I mean, maybe that's where he's going to isolate. I don't know. But at that point, Caitlin was raising this issue. At that point, if anybody comes in contact with him, they need to be in personal protective equipment. I mean, if he was in the hospital still, whenever the doctors went to go see him, they'd be in personal protective equipment. So, you know, you're getting a...
So you can hear there's a very different emphasis in that story. They're looking at it through this very modern, orange, rational phase of development, and everything is about understanding science. What is Donald Trump doing here in returning from the hospital that's inclusive of science, that's putting it first and foremost? That's what's important to them from this perspective. So let's look now at this stage of development, and based on what Donald Trump said here, what we can glean to be the healthy aspects of this red stage of development, and also some of the unhealthy ones that are dismissive of some of the other stages. So Donald Trump, I don't think it can be argued against, has a tremendous resilience. He has a tremendous strength about him. Now, what he does with that energy, people could argue about for sure, and people have very different perspectives about. But I don't think anyone could argue that he has a tremendous strength about him. He's unstoppable in a lot of ways. He has this tremendous gut strength. I heard his son, Eric Trump, I think, say on Fox News a few days ago that he's never seen his father with a cold in his life. He has this tremendous resilience, and he keeps going in certain ways. But I think what's lacking in his presentation here, even though he is including it very peripherally, if he had said something more about science, if he had included more of the value of it, then I think a lot more people who are coming from that more modern stage of development would have resonated with what he had done there. They could have respected his, even though his center of gravity is in that red stage, they would have respected that he was coming from and more inclusive of science. When Donald Trump doesn't include more of the statistics and more of the facts from this orange perspective of development, people feel very left out. That modern rational phase, there's at least 30% of the population is at that stage. That's their center of gravity. So Donald Trump is immediately alienating them if he doesn't include that more. And then from CNN's perspective, obviously from this modern orange perspective, they're very, very strong in science. And obviously that's so important right now. 210,000 people have died of coronavirus in America in the last few months. So it's very, very important that they're leading with that, and they are in that way. But I think what they could have done more to synthesize this and not alienate some of the Trump supporters here is just also include something along the lines of saying, Donald Trump is a very strong, resilient person, and we commend him for getting out of hospital quickly, but we'd really like if he spoke more and emphasized the value of science in all of this. If they had said something like that, that would help to reduce the tribalism, in my opinion. And so hopefully when we can start to understand these current events from many different perspectives like this, we can start to synthesize them in a way. We can start to bring them together so that we become less tribal and we're putting out less tribalism into the world.